my jam, empathy is my jam. Empathy is my jam, 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 jam.
I'm Chad.
And I'm Tiffany.
And this is Empathy Jam. It's been about 3 months since the first episode. This is your fourth time on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we were maybe talking about, like, what has happened in 3 months since you quit your job, and since all these changes are going on with each other, with you individually, with each other, with our lifestyle, with our goals, with our dreams.
Yeah.
With our little...
Keep on going.
with our little turdness with each other.
Don't like that.
You're like quiet, but then you just let me know what you don't like.
Well,
that's part of your thing that you were talking about. Whatever we were talking about on the walk. What's that called?
I can't remember. Oh, avoidant.
Yeah, the new part of yours. Whatever.
It's not new. It's been there. I just have a name for it now.
What's that thing called though?
It's an avoidant attachment.
Mm. You want to say anything about that?
I'm literally something I just saw on Instagram like a couple days ago. I've been following a bunch of like therapists on social media because I think they're hilarious and they make things like relatable. But an avoidant attachment is basically where you self-isolate. That's like what you're used to doing. You would rather figure it out on your own. You can handle it. You don't need anybody else to. It's easy for you to see flaws in your partners more so than in yourself.
We were laughing about that some. I took this down.
So I'm just actually getting into that and like what that means. But all of the things I said out loud to Chad while we were walking, he's like, yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't about like there's something wrong with you. It was more like we're laughing that
there's other people like that.
Yeah, and you just find the differences in each other, that like your strengths are different than mine and vice versa, and like we're laughing about it because it would resonate and relate to us so much. Like, holy crap, like that's what that is. Like other people, I mean, and that's what kind of empathy is about in general, is like you're finding yourself in other people's shoes, and like what it's, you know, when you have some understanding
for yourself. Yeah,
when you have some the
or
worst
others.
Yeah, the worst is when you're just having this pain. We could just say like, what if something's wrong with your knee and you just can't figure it out and you have no idea where to go, and it's affecting your relationships and everything around you.
Mm-hmm.
And for you had like, you did that something you can either talk about or not, but I can't remember what it's called every time. You can just mention it.
The QHHT.
QHHT.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that later.
Okay, well then we'll get into that later. But that was one thing that came away from that, and you were reading it on, or is it not? Did it not come from that?
Maybe it might have boiled over into it because when I did that session, I was alone in every vision I had, supposedly.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm getting confused because we were talking about all of that at the same time.
Yeah. I just want to also acknowledge this is the first time we've recorded here, and it feels kind of weird to me still, like looking into your eyes.
What, like you want to complain about that and not like it?
No, it's just...
Even though we put so much work into it?
No, it's just I don't want to be like slouching on...
Yeah.
Getting that
my video with Mary Coleman, I just saw it today. I'm like rolling back, and I like I can't even say it. I'm cropping that crap out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use just our faces, like, oh yeah.
So yeah, it's been about 3 months since we recorded the first episode. And as I listened to it back, and I heard myself say, like, by the time this is released, I might be like shitting my pants at that point. And that definitely happened a couple of times. Like, not where I was like regretful of like resigning from my position, or it wasn't a regret thing. It was just more like how do you work through this? And wait, like nothing is like really different, but everything is different. Like, I haven't found a magical cure or anything, and I'm still struggling with the same things kind of that I was struggling with like myself, but I've taken out the equation of working a job that I don't like anymore.
You've taken out like
The
definitely
common denominator of it.
Something that's definitely keep you so stuck in the same. Now you're like stepping out, and although it's not all like lollipops, like it's been hard. We've had ups and downs. Like right before we released the first one, we're just like listening to it with each other, and we got the intro done and all. We had resistance every little step of the way. It's really tough to work on something like vulnerable together when you both feel a certain type of way and push through it. But for the most part, we've been like somehow, I don't even know how, I couldn't tell somebody how to do it, but I feel like it's serendipitous, like in this time period, like it's like now or never type energy. Like, no, like we have to keep going. Like, yeah, we might need to take a break and an hour break from each other, and we get all funky and say something mean or whatever, but we keep coming back. Like, I keep envisioning this, like, I always say this about us, like, as long as both people are willing to say yes, and what I mean by that is not like yes to whatever, but it's just like willing. It's literally just like willing to jump back in it with somebody when you're figuring life out together all the time. And I wanted to, do you remember like when we're sitting in our room listening to the first one, and it wasn't like a great experience? Like, it's not, it wasn't bad, but it was not like beautiful. Like, yes, we're so excited. It was actually like,
oh,
and
man.
I said something too that to you. I was like, oh my God, we're crazy.
That made me so mad.
I was like, we're crazy. We're going to put all our stuff out there like this. And you were like, you got upset. You were like, how are you going to say that right now? I'm like, already feeling like, and this is about me. And I'm like, well, my bad. I'm sorry. Like, that's just how I'm feeling. And that right there in the past might have been a little blow up thing where one of us don't say yes. We do not say the willingness thing, basically, and just like, nah, I'm out of here, like, and just kind of shove it under the rug.
Yeah, it was scary.
And then it's like, I'm like, it's so not even a big deal at all. Like, everybody is so consumed with their own complicated life, like nobody cares. But it's like, it's a big deal and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's the really confusing part. It's like you can look at it from both extremes when it's really somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest deal is I think both of our quest is to find ourselves. Like, find a better version of ourselves without trying really hard, without getting too caught up in what so-and-so's doing or seemingly doing. And it's tough. We live in a weird world, and we're finding, I think, routine type stuff that is clearing our mind to be more ourselves.
Yeah.
It ain't like we're all successful or something, but there's some type of freedom going around between us that we're holding I think we're holding each other up. Am I making this up?
No, you're not.
What?
How do we move on? No, we're definitely we're both, you can tell we're both like stretching for the better. Like if you see someone like kind of trying, it's easier for you to try a little harder. And I know I'm the like stubborn one who doesn't like change and can't focus if the house is dirty. And
You like to know everything that's gonna go on, that's went on, and when it's gonna go on.
I just like to
So you
feel
can
well
find
informed.
so you can find your little comfortable spot.
Yeah.
That's my diagnosis.
And that's not necessarily wrong.
It's really wrong. No, it's not. It's not wrong. And at the same time, I think I talked to Mary about this too. Like, when is it just like your personality and kind of the way you vibrate and move about the world versus a stubborn thing?
Mm.
And when do you, I'm not saying you, but I am saying you, but hypothetically, anyone, when do we know that it's like, yeah, I'm not really good, or I don't really move that way, or think that way? But when is it useful to stretch, like you said, like stretch yourself to the edge of discomfort? Because usually, I know this, that there's reward right on the other side of the discomfort and reward.
Yeah.
Or not discomfort and reward, discomfort and resistance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'd rather not most times. But I have been.
I mean, for you just to get on here and try to talk and be here is like a huge step. Like I said in the first one, when you were like, maybe I could do empathy jam with you, I was like, I kind of like scoffed, like I laughed, like not like I just never considered that, because you're like, you're not like that.
Yeah.
Or you didn't used to be. And that's why when we've been getting in some of our resistance arguments, I'm like, yeah, but look how far you came. You know what I mean? Like, you normally would never do something like this. Now you do.
Yeah. But I am also learning, like, to give myself, I don't know, like, not get too consumed with something and be unbalanced in a way. Like, you can consume so much. I saw something somewhere. It was like, if you're like overwhelmed by like consuming all the things to heal or consuming all the things to grow, like you can still feel like overwhelmed with that.
Yeah.
And not spacing it out,
Yeah.
or taking breaks, or like literally just not doing anything one day. And that's hard for me because I feel like I've been on such a structured corporate lifestyle where like certain things happen at certain times, and if they don't, it just means more work later. And I would rather get the work done now and have rest later, but it's not like that. It's an up and down, sometimes really up and sometimes really down graph that I'm not used to following.
Well, let me take a stab at empathizing.
Mm-hmm.
Keyword, empathize. If I'm hearing you, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, you're saying that you were so used to so many predictable, structured things, and not only were you used to that, you're used to kind of paying a price if these certain things weren't met. So therefore, right now, when things are so free and you're kind of into this growth project of yourself so much, to where you can almost like, it can almost be like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is like overloading myself with like every single little book and thing I can consume with. And then in a way, it's such a pattern inside of yourself that can create this
It can create burnout.
a similar stress
Yeah.
in a way. And actually, I was just talking to Kevin about this on our way home the other night, of like when you're so productive and you're like busy, 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 and then all this, or you've been doing your meditation or yoga or exercise or whatever you do that makes you feel successful and like good in your body or mind, and then all of a sudden you have a time where you get sick, or you just slow down, and for whatever reason you're on the low part of the, I call it the low part of the wave, like a low vibrational moment, and you can create all this
Stories.
all these stories that you're now wrong. You were doing good, and now you're a failure. You're never gonna do good again. And we can get so, in a way, obsessed with that. Just like you can get like anybody can get obsessed with anything. And I hate to be cliche and be like everything is within, what's it called?
Reason?
No, it's like moderation.
Oh.
Everything in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true, and I use the example like, get obsessed with drinking water. Drink water all day when you're not supposed to be drinking water. Like, you can die from that. Like, people have died from that. So anything out of balance, it doesn't have to be like even a negative. It's just like anything you do more of in one area of your life, something else
We'll have to fall a little below.
Yeah, just you don't you only have 100% of the pie to give, of your energy, life energy, whatever you want to call it. And if you're given, same thing with me, like our relationship can suffer and stuff and we just went through this recently, if I get so into productivity and I'm like working every day and working on this and I'm working on that, and then you're like, your energy is kind of like, dude, like, you're leaving me out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, what I take from that is really just self-acceptance, and that over and over, life don't go the way, like, our little brains, our little smart, complex brains get attached to, like,
comfort and routine.
How it's supposed to be. We just create all these boundaries constantly. You gotta watch it, because you can be addicted to self-sabotage and making yourself feel like crap. Because why? Like, it makes sense. Like, the reason why would be is because that's what you've always done, or that's what
is comfortable.
Yeah, that's what you grew up with your parents and the way you were raised. Then I'm not saying you, but maybe it's just a societal environment thing, and then your body's just used to the same thing. So therefore, even when you don't have that thing, you're like, no, I usually feel like crap. So even, we've all had those moments where everything around us is seemingly fine and good, and everybody thinks it's going well, and inside we're like, it's not going well.
Yeah. There was something I read where it was like our brain is hardwired to become, like, we want to be as comfortable as possible. So when we do try to grow, sometimes we resist it so much because our brain is like, that's not comfortable. And then it feels like you can kind of like second guess yourself. Like, am I not being genuine? Am I not being myself? Am I trying to change myself? Which some people can think that's a bad thing. Like, some people really pride themselves on, like, I've always been this way. I'm never going to change.
My dad was like that. He's like, he
it's like a strong thing.
Yeah,
like, I'm so strong.
I don't ever change.
Right.
I would never change. You can count on it. I would never change. It's like, bro, like, you should probably change some of the things that you're so hard on.
Right. But I don't know. I wonder what that is. I'm sure it's a generational thing, like, where you just felt like if you changed for someone, that was like a weakness. But really, like,
that's a vulnerability thing. So many, especially men, think being vulnerable, which that definition can be like a vulnerable kitten caught in the rain or whatever. But like, it can be so taken as susceptible to getting hurt. basically.
Right.
Which it is true, but vulnerability, just like talking with Donnie J, like, especially, I'm not saying especially for men, but I'm just saying men are traditionally more like not feeling stuff. They got one emotion, anger, done. That's
Yeah.
it, you know? Is like, it's a strength. Like,
To figure out what that anger really is, because it's usually not anger.
mm,
It's like an onion, you know?
just peeling them away.
So I can kind of get into what I've been doing.
Why are you doing all this? You quit your job. That's the big holy crap moment. A big decision. But a lot we know, we can't even explain in the words of like how it led us to giving our family and ourselves that permission of you doing that. But like, why? Why do you want to be different or know more about yourself? Or why are you like researching all this stuff?
I've just been, it's almost like, I don't want this to sound cheesy, but it's like I just want to know myself. Like, it's like I haven't given myself that gift to actually like know why I do something, or know why I feel a certain way, or why is that my instant reaction, or why do I want to drink wine every night? Like, why? Mainly, like, there's a lot of habits in there, that good or bad, but I kind of want to know. It's like I have, so it's like when I was I had Kaden really young, so it's almost like even when it was like during that time when you're like right out of high school and you start to learn to know yourself a little bit more, you go off to college or you do whatever, I had a baby. So it's like I took like that time of figuring myself out, and I poured it into having a baby, which is fine and great, but it's like there is a time where I need to make that time up a little bit with myself, where I know it will make me just a better person overall, and it'll take me out of my, oh, I'm shy, oh, I don't do that kind of stuff, oh, I'm going to stay the same way.
Yeah. Would you say that there's some intuition from yourself that like, you know, there's more out there for you, like for inside you?
Yeah, like there's things that I want to do that I haven't found out yet, that I don't know about yet, but I do know after spending some time, I've been like a hermit, kind of like I've been real inward, but I know I do want to, one of my life or soul purpose is to help people in a healing way. So I'm just trying to figure out what that means.
Why do you know that?
Because it's one
like
of,
you haven't always said that.
No, but it's just like a truth. When I say it, it makes sense. It makes me feel better, like not feel better, but like I feel, I don't know. I wasn't expecting that question.
Like it just feels like meaningful. Like I'm not trying to go like typical and lead you into an answer, but like you've been, lots of people say, including me, that you have a softness to you. Like your friends call you like the Switzerland. Like you'll never necessarily take a side. Like you're a listener. You're a I would call you a natural empathizer, even though you don't think you are or something.
Right.
And it makes me think of, I was also telling Kevin this on our drive home, that like one of the big things that I'm not like this on, but like when I was going through things and with the like addiction stuff, and Kevin was like, you know, did like Tiffany know, or like I didn't know you then. Is this like 10 years ago? Is this 8? And I'm like, it's kind of hard to represent any time period in words, But I'm like, I don't know. It's just like she had, and now I don't know if this is like you're shy, like just go with the flow, not wrestle up conflict part of you either. But it was a gift to me in that moment that you were never like naggy or like on me about it. Like there would be certain times you would let me know, like you said, you could like see it in my eyes or something, the way I looked when I was basically taking pills. But I would get the vibe from you. Like you could give me like a look or just like a oh man, like but you wouldn't I I guess I'm just getting at that you're somehow your ability to let me discover it on my own and like work through it and kind of call myself out. I don't know. It's just a testament to your personality and kind of like let somebody do their own thing. And I don't know if it's because you didn't want to wrestle up and I know you did have thoughts of like, oh, like what's going on and like, should I say something or when should, and you don't want to create more conflict. But for sure, when I know I'm kind of already not doing something good, any of us, we're all like this when we've already been self-criticizing ourselves so much and somebody even kind of hints around the bush, which I know you're like this too, it's like the defense is like hardcore. And I always felt like that could have kept me in that repetition of addiction or just doing the same thing. They call it in 12-step like insanity, like doing the same thing, expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And but for me, that part of you that I don't know, just didn't like tit for tat me, and be like, oh, like what you just did there doesn't make sense, and you're saying you're not, or blah blah blah, and you're grumpy because I know why you're grumpy or whatever, and but yeah, you have a natural. First time I heard your voice on here, I'm like, dang, like I hear your voice every day, but I'm like, you got that reminds me when we used to talk on the phone, like when we first got together, we talked on the phone, like, oh, she got a nice voice.
Yeah.
But at some point, you haven't been saying the whole time we've been together, like, I'm gonna help people or have an ability that I think I could help heal in different ways or whatever. So and I can't even remember when you started saying that. Maybe it's like in your job, you're just like fantasizing about like doing something flipping different than what you're doing. It's just like, man, I cannot do this forever.
Yeah. So in my job, it was like I moved from like a position. I moved into into management, and the helping people part of it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. And that's the only reason I took the last position I did, the supervisor position, because I'm like...
Because you never wanted to be a leader. You're like, oh, no, that's not for me.
Right. But I was trying everything to feel like I was doing my purpose. And I realized as being the supervisor, I could help people, and that's what I wanted to do. That's why I took it. I was like, oh yeah, like if I can help people and like not be in the like nitty gritty of it, this could work. This could be what I want to do.
You could find this little diamond in the rough of like, okay, I can work on that while doing this bullshit I don't like.
Yeah, but it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be.
Well, it we could put a narrative to it that it was all in the timing that it was supposed to be, because during that time you got a raise. I got obsessed with the Dave Ramsey stuff of paying off debt, which anyone listening, like, yo, Dave Ramsey, hardcore Christian, which I'm not saying there's anything bad about that, but he's awesome. Like, he changed my perspective, our perspectives on debt. That's just like a side note. If there's any part of you that's got debt and you want to look at your money situation, which is basically all of us, including us right now.
Yeah.
Shout out to Wesley and Kelly, my cousin Wes and his wife Kelly, for taking the lead on that.
Also, Kevin Lyons.
Yeah.
He bought us a book a long time ago.
That's
He
true.
bought us the book. I saw it. It's in our basement right now. We did see that though. So it's been like little nuggets.
Kevin Lyons is our kid's grandpa.
Yeah.
My mom's partner in life and crime.
Right. So I do want to kind of go back to your addiction time where it was like, I don't want to sound...
Just be honest. Don't try to...
I just have an intuitive part of me where I can tell. I just know certain things. I don't know how to explain it. So when we first started dating, we would like sneak away to the bar. You would have like all the house parties, and then we would sneak away to the bar, just the two of us, and we would just sit and talk about like real life things, not like drunk things, even though we would be drinking. But I remember at one point...
That bar is where you said I love you to me.
No, it's not. I said it at Ruby Tuesdays.
What the heck? Why do I get that wrong?
I don't know, because we were at Madden's a lot.
All right, sorry.
But I remember a point where you had told me, like, I'm not going to drink forever. I remember thinking, like okay.
Early on?
Yeah, I remember you being like, yeah, I'm going to be like, I don't want to drink forever. First off, like, I think it was more so at that point for your health. But you were like, yeah, this isn't something I'm going to do forever. I'm not going to drink forever. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, everybody says stuff like that. But there was a part, I believed you. I did believe you too. And I knew at that point that you would like use things out of like not prescribed, and I knew things like that, but it wasn't like an everyday thing, and it wasn't something that...
Yeah, that's something you weren't ever in the dark about. I
Right.
would just tell you, and it was kind of normal. Like, yeah, you party a little extra or whatever, and
Right.
and it was just that at first.
Yeah, and I knew. There was a time where I was like, okay, like. I hated the way it makes your eyes look. I just always knew, but there was degrees of that too, and I could like see it, and I could sense it, and I could be like, okay, well, this part is okay. But then and then you always did it like when I would go to bed early, you know what I mean, and you would stay up late. So, and in all honesty, your high or your low, I think, was pretty high. I don't know if you think that.
It was.
Yeah.
It was so high, and what we mean by that is like when somebody says they're rock bottom. Like I'm considered, definitely in the 12-step world. Actually, some people are like, you're not even a addict or alcoholic.
Because you're so conscious of knowing that you were eventually going to stop, and you
Right.
knew that.
It's just. And I'm just lucky that for whatever reason, my mom has been talking to me about addiction and how alcohol and drugs affect her body since I was like 19.
And then you
So-
had your dad as an example of like what would happen if you didn't stop. So nothing against your dad, but
And my dad was a very high functioning
addict, yeah.
yeah, or alcoholic or whatever he was, like
He looked like the normal American.
Yeah, he paid his bills. He wrote himself a schedule. He did work. He was like dependable.
Right.
All this stuff. And I would just want to point this out for anyone listening that might have a part of them that's like, man, like, do I have a problem? Oh no, I don't have. And you have this conversation like, oh, I don't have a problem. I'm not like so and so. I'm never going to AA or something like that. Blah blah blah. It's like, it's your own journey, and for me, like we're kind of saying, mine could be considered a high bottom, but regardless what led me into it, I'm just like so lucky that I didn't have to have really terrible things happen, that I could tell that it was headed in that direction, or that I had a certain amount of pride, like with us having kids and being like, I just like a certain amount of self-honesty. Like, man, like I'm not being like my potential, and I'm not being good. I'm not being a good person. My values and morals are changing and evolving, and I could just notice like it was
There
like
was like a
it's
schedule.
like a gross. It's like, ew, like you're doing stuff that you wouldn't want anybody to know, and that just like adds to the isolation of it. And it could have sometimes it can get hard, be hardest. I'm not saying hardest for the people that are in between, but we all have things that we use to numb ourselves and to make ourselves feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that stuff gets a little out of balance and out of hand, and some things can happen so much so, I would say most things, that you just need to be humbled and admit that you might need other humans for help and guidance and get in some groups or whatever where we all just want to, our ego just wants to do it on our own and then brag about it later, and that's just not the way I found it,
Right.
you know. And I just my main point is I want to connect to people that have the conversation with themselves and be like, oh, I'm not that bad or whatever. Like,
Which is true. Like,
yeah,
you're not bad.
well, yeah, but like my addiction thing, like, oh, I don't have that. And it's like everything has pros and cons to it, doing it. Like if you're obsessed with working out and you're a bodybuilder and you do too much of it, you can get injured. You work out while you're injured, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
All that can happen. So it's more about taking away the
Like the stigma of
yeah,
it?
the stigma. It's like taking away the stigma that it's not like for me, like when I'm in a 12-step program, and you're not really we already talked about this, you're not really supposed to specify whether it's AA, NA, OA, gamblers, and whatever. It's a 12-step program, and you usually identify yourself as that given 12-step program, like, oh, I'm Chad, I'm alcoholic, or I'm addict, or I'm an overeater, whatever. I'm using a lot of examples. And a lot of people have a lot of trouble with that. They're like, man, I'm not going to call myself an alcoholic if I don't think that,
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I had to find the space in myself that's like, yo, why am I here? Am I here to obsess about a damn word of what I call myself or not? Like, no, like, that's just a distraction from what I'm actually here for. I'm here for healing and to better myself, to know myself better, like what you're talking about, and to do better and be better for myself and those around me.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, it doesn't matter what you call it. And that's what I really think about spirituality and all that stuff, too. And people can disagree. I don't really care. That's, like, how I feel. Like, the same vibration that I feel when I'm doing, like, a music songwriter thing, and then the same thing that we feel after we've gotten through like an argument, but we come together and then all of a sudden we're like closer. Like all of that is the same God representative vibration that I'm after. I just think it's like it's real truth, whatever that is. Like it can be that anyway for somebody, but everybody knows what the coincidence feeling feels like when you're like, oh my God, was that just a coincidence, or was that like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like I'm seeing like way connections, or whatever it is. Like I think, not that my opinion even matters, but that's what I'm chasing more of, while knowing that there ain't no way you're going to get a full 100% dose of it all the time. You're actually probably going to pretty much get like a 50-50. That's like the yin and yang of life. Like it's a real mother effer to come to terms to that like even when you quit your toxic job, it's like what we've gotten arguments about when you think I'm like trying to tell you not to quit, but I'm like, hey,
It's still gonna be
yeah,
there.
you're still gonna be there, and your issues, like which is fine. You're definitely finding that out, but not in a bad way, not in a like I told you so way. It's like, well, you cleared something out where at least you have the space to be like, yes, I am still here, and that's kind of
Right.
what's led you to, like when I asked you, like, why are you doing all this, which we haven't even really talked about together, like why. It's just kind of naturally like one thing build on another.
Right. Yeah.
I know I say a lot.
I know Chad says a lot, and then I can't empathize back with him because it's like, well, where the heck do I start?
Yeah.
Do you need any empathy right now for that?
I need empathy for that statement you just made.
About what?
I'm just kidding.
Oh. Well, I was gonna
About
go.
me talking too much.
Oh. I'm not saying you talk too much, but
No, I get on a flow and I get on a little bit of a moment, and it's like your thing is you're like, yo, you don't give me, you need some space so you can reflect on some things.
hi, Poppy.
Hi, Poppy. A little stretchy.
Downward dog. Well, I guess that can make me go into a couple of things that I've been doing. So you were talking about the 12-step program. I also want to make sure that you didn't want me to say anything back to you.
I'm good.
Okay. You know me, I get anxious here. So I have been doing my own 12-step program, and I'm going to a meeting for people who are impacted by another person's addiction. And it's something you told me to go to a long time ago, like probably 5 years ago.
Everyone, it does not matter. Like, I want to like scream this into the microphone. Like, I wish everyone had something like a 12. It don't have to be 12 step. It doesn't matter. It's about community guidance and direction of a way to live and not carry it all on your own shoulders. Like, that's what it is. And that's what when I was discovering this stuff at first, I'm like, I just knew that you would vibe with it, but at the same time, you can't change somebody when they're not ready, or you can't make somebody do a cool idea of yours. If anything, when you got a cool idea, nobody wants to hear it.
Right.
So,
especially me.
yeah. And anyways, I wanted you to explore this, and through a different set of circumstances with other people in your life, you went to support someone else, and then now you're finding, Poppy, come down here and stop whining.
Yeah, so I had mentioned it to, it's just always been something that's been in the back of my head, and it came up where it made sense to go and support with somebody. And honestly, it was like the first meeting was a lead, which means that someone stands up and tells their story, and it was very impactful. So the second meeting, it was
Well, did you really go just to support this person, or was it a little half where you're like, oh, this makes it a little easier for me to check this thing out I always wanted to anyway?
Yeah, it was like that. That was a known thing too. It was like, yeah, this is something I've wanted to do. Like, it makes sense for us to do it together. The first meeting was the lead meeting, and so the second meeting, I wasn't really sure how it would go.
Talk about, like, you guys did it on Zoom. Talk about the nervousness of just doing something new that you don't even though you know it through me, and I'm like, yo, it is not a big deal at all.
Right. So yeah, it was like we did it on Zoom, separately in our own houses, and then checked in with each other during the whole time. And it was like definitely 100% no speaking, no camera on. So the second meeting we went in person, which was really scary, but it was a small group in the room, and then it's like a hybrid meeting, so there's people online too. And that one, once you got into the meat of the meeting, it was like I was just like, oh my God, all these people are like me. Like it felt, honestly, I was like, this is like who I am. This is like, I'll give an example. They're basically like, yeah, like we grew up with no boundaries. Like when we started, like someone had to explain to us what a boundary was. We were people pleasers. We were like basically like doormats. And it's like an unintentional thing that's been like, it's just, and I don't know how to explain it. But when I was there, it was like, oh, I'm kind of here in like support and just to kind of see what this is about. And then, you know, just remembering like there was a point in my life where I lived with an alcoholic stepfather and just thinking like that didn't affect me because he wasn't in my life for like ever. It was like a, I don't know, 10 to 12 year thing when I was younger, until I was like a teenager. And I like ignored that part of my life for so long. It was like, oh, that like he's not gonna affect me, or that those situations that I went through, that I don't have to think about those don't have anything to do with me. And it like it's such an eye-opener that like yeah, like
Like, I like getting the cops called is not totally like unaffecting to you and all that type of stuff you went through.
right, it's like, oh, so like all that, the time that I was like tiptoeing around and
Scared.
like it was like, oh, that did impact me. That is a reason as to why I am the way I am. That's why like the isolation thing, it's like just trying to keep the peace within the house as best as you can as a kid. That has a toll on you. And it doesn't go away, especially if you pretend like it didn't happen. So I've been to like, I don't know, 4 or 5 meetings now. I'll be honest, mostly of them have been on Zoom because by the end of the night, I'm like ready to be in my bed. But even being on Zoom with my video off and just listening to people talk about hope, strengths, and I forget the other word, but
experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah, hearing people talk about that with any topic, and they all kind of relate to any topic I would want to talk about. It has been a form of therapy, I think, like, and realizing like, oh, so my avoidance of conflict is because as a kid that's what I did, and like it doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do to avoid conflict forever. Like, I mean, that's my goal.
Yeah, maybe it's not like a thing like, oh, I'm just like that, period.
Right, I'm just like that. It's like, how about
you're
like
finding connections, like you're already doing, like we said earlier, like you being here talking about this is totally 2 years ago, you're like, yeah, no, like I don't do that. Like that's just all there is to it. That there's no exploring of why I don't do that, or if one day I do, I'm gonna do that. Like, don't push me. I just don't do that.
Right. Yeah. And like, you should just love me even though I don't do that. Or I should just love myself, or like any kind of thing like that. But so just knowing that that there is a lot of people out there who are like me for the same and or different reasons, and just having that container where I know that like, oh yeah, like it's like I'm excited for a meeting just because I'm like, what am I going to learn, or how's it going to make me feel? So yeah, that's been one thing that I've been doing since the first episode.
Well, I want to reflect on that a little, of like how I'm connecting it for others too, is that this is just one way you're finding some understanding and
Of myself, yeah.
Yeah, and understanding is equal to the opposite of kind of isolation and feeling like you're the only one. And even though that's so cliche that we hear even about like all the different things like suicide prevention and stuff, like you're not the only one, there's other people going through, Like, you can hear that until you're blue in the face, but until you really
Experience it.
until you really experience being understood just a little bit, like all of us humans, we want to know what we're going through is like valid and real, and that it's not like, and there's a reason for it, and it's not just like random, and like we don't just have to accept it for what it is, and like the pain and um however way somebody may find a place where they feel they get just a tiny bit of understanding. You don't have to have a bunch of it. But, and that's why a lot of people in 12-step programs like, man, I know everybody should have something like this, because and it doesn't have to be like all extensive where you're all like having to be a vulnerable, like what you're saying. Like, you can literally, it's taking the willingness to do something for yourself, which is like go to these, do something. It can be anything, because I don't want to be the preacher of meetings. That might not be for anybody, but reach out for something to when you're hearing other people's stories. Just like, that's why we're passionate about this podcast. It's like, when we're sharing from ourselves with other people or with each other the best we can, the truth that's inside of us, we could think differently like a year from now, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like this current truth that's inside of us. Like, you have to know that like people feel heard when you just express yourself. Like, everybody's here, I believe, for a reason. And when you're really living, like being who you're supposed to be, you're impacting people around you. Like, and it doesn't have to be some gooey, inspirational, positive, blah, blah, blah way. It just is. It's like when you're living your truth, and like how people have already reached out to us so far, just in the very beginning here, of like, man, you guys are like really, even our very closest friends that know, they're like, man, that's you. Like, that's, and I just want to highlight that like somebody that's feeling lonely, and here's the reason, is because the loneliness is so stinking convincing. It's so convincing that you're the only one. You can hear me or you or freaking anyone say over and over and over, like, you're not the only one, not the only one. But until you really experience it, it won't ever really settle in, because it's just like the low depression, bad part of the wave, or not bad, but the down low part. It's that our brains are so complex that we convince ourselves that like we are the only one. And even to take it a step further, we can get addicted to convincing ourselves we're the only one, because we get to
comfortable.
Yeah, we get to wallow in the comfortability or even the pity of it. Like, man,
If you're used to that, it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's like, no, or you don't feel worthy, where you feel you deserve to feel like shit. You deserve to feel less than and nasty. Like,
That's what you get.
Like, I have been there. I can't even say I've even been there a tenth of but I can, as much as what other people have probably been there, but I can definitely relate and see how dark it could get. And I know people are out there in the most lonely spot that nobody could ever imagine. And like, I don't know how to turn that light switch on where somebody finds the willingness to seek out something. It can be anything. It could even be the freaking pick the guitar, and that's part of your journey, is learning some new hobby or whatever that gets you to your next step, like, I don't think there's only one way. I think it's about the willingness. It's not about what it is, it's the willingness. Like, get into running, like, whatever it is, something that gives you more benefit than consequence.
Yeah, that can open
Negative
you
consequence.
up to like what it is that you really want to do. Like, if you don't know, you have to start with something so that way you can figure it out. Like, yeah, well, this isn't working for me.
And the reason would be is because you already done enough research on your own account, following your own, like what you think you should do and solving it yourself. Like, have you not done enough research and found out that the whatever crappy thing, it keeps happening over and over? Like, when do we reach that point where we're tired of it enough to find willingness?
It's different for everyone.
It is different for everyone. That's why it's taken a long time to be able to come to a place of like doing this type of stuff where I don't have some strategy on how I'm gonna, like, my ego is gonna help people or whatever. Like, it's not that anymore. It's just like either I've convinced myself of this strategy of like surrender and just like show up and be yourself, and that's the best you can do, or that is the real. And I'm very, very convinced that's what we're supposed to be doing, all of us. Like, we're supposed to be finding ourselves and giving our individual fingerprint, like, of a gift. And like everything is like a butterfly effect, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even the negative stuff we do, like, even when I'm being an asshole one day, like, they have this saying in 12 Step I've heard, like, well, accept life on life's terms or whatever. And it's like, well, you never know if you're being an asshole one day that somebody else needed to practice acceptance and patience. And that's kind of like a funny way of saying it, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the crappiest things, your job, how much did that lead you to this moment?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't feel good in the moment, but you can always connect dots in the past where you're like, oh, that kind of led to this and that kind of led to this. And
yeah, when you're like a little bit removed from it, it can make more sense.
And somebody could call that BS and like, yeah, you can make a story and make anything make sense. But like, well, the point is, are you doing better? Are you getting some type of healing? If you're getting that, then it's working. It doesn't matter what it is, you know?
Yeah, definitely. All right. So a couple other things I've been doing. I've still been doing yoga, therapy, although I'm not doing it as much. I've been seeing the naturopath since April, and I'm actually finally.
We haven't even talked much about the naturopath, but I've been talking to Chris. Chris is our naturopath master, and he's I'd say he's 75% open to the podcast. He's just a little quiet and reserved, and I've just said, hey, would you consider it? Because I don't ever want to like force it, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, after COVID, it was really, we both had COVID at different times, but he would give us a bunch of natural supplements.
Like a straight regimen of like...
Yeah, like every hour take this, like 5 of them.
Yeah. Why don't you talk about... because I feel like I keep starting my journey with the naturopath, and then I'll run out of the supplements, and then I'll start eating like crap, and I'm still dealing with my own like food addiction stuff. But why don't you at least touch on this past time when you had a real low moment and just like can't even hardly get yourself going, and then you went and seen him.
Yeah.
And like I noticed, like for you, I really noticed the difference. Like it was like within a week you were pepped up.
Right. So basically my first appointment to the naturopath was like right in the midst of me being like on medical leave at work, and he was like, he does this little, it's like an avatar thing. You hold something in your hand, and then he puts this little pen in water, and then like pokes all your different pressure points, kind of.
Yeah, acupuncture points. What do you mean by avatar?
I think that's what the little, the machine's called an avatar.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But so...
it connects, it's able to read like
energy.
These acupuncture points, and it's like connected to different organs, and like all of this is like proven.
Yeah.
And he also, I'm just putting a little of my thing in there because I'll ask him so many questions. I think he's like, damn, Chad. Like, I'm like, sorry, I just really interested. But that this is just one lens in which he looks through to connect what's going on. And he definitely says, like, everything's connected in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, and like your organs are all connected together. It's not like you just go in and work on your liver.
Yeah.
It's like it's all kind of connected.
Yeah.
So anyways, this machine like reads like basically highs and lows of things that are out of balance vibrationally, and then he'll take supplements and put them on the machine, retest the same spot, and it basically test if your body would respond well to this. Like, it's, you see it in real time. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah. I get like real, like, and I've been, since when I first went, he was like, holy crap, like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, funny, I'm an underwriting supervisor. And he's like, have you ever thought about like finding a different job? Like, so like nonchalant. And I was like, yes, I actually have. I'm in the middle of it. He's like, I think that's a really great idea. So everything, all of my like, everything that he tested was like, what's the word? Elevated.
It was in the red.
But what's that mean? It's like
inflamed.
Inflamed. Yeah, I was like inflamed. Everything was like too much. But then there was some really low things too, where it was like I didn't, like, my energy levels were really low in like all certain areas. So I've been going to him probably like once a month for sure, because I've been like really wanting to figure out how to get myself in optimal like physical health.
Another just like aspect of like knowing yourself and finding out what the hell is going on and how to
how it's like showing up in my body. Yeah, for sure. And he I forget what I was going with. Every time I've gone, it's been like everything's gotten a little bit better, but like not 100%. You would like tweak things.
But what happened with this spot recently?
It was like after COVID.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And we both experienced, like, I'm sure a lot of people, like, after COVID having like you feel better symptom wise,
but not physically.
Oh.
Yeah, I was really
or mentally. The mental part is real, like,
that's what I meant, actually.
Weird thing.
Like your body feels physically fine-ish, like you're like, you're a little weak, but then like you're mentally, at least I was like mentally like, okay, like when is this gonna go away? Like when am I gonna feel like myself again? And what does that even mean? But like, I just wanted to have energy again in a way. I think that's...
You wanted to just have a little bit of zest for life.
Right. Yeah. I was like in a down wave. So I go in and he said something like, since I had been, and he had given me the supplements while I was in there, and it was to protect my immune system. Isn't that what those were? They were like to regenerate it quicker. Mm-hmm. So he put me, my levels were like decent. They were pretty good. And he put me on a bunch of, on like all different, it was like 3 different supplements, and they were mainly like drainage to drain my system, essentially. Not like in any certain way, but like physically inside, like I had no outward.
You weren't getting rid of the toxins, basically.
Yeah, like my body was holding on to the toxins. So put me on a bunch of different things, and then I went back 2 weeks after, because he's like, I want to see you a little bit sooner. And I was like, everything was in the green, and it had never been that way before. With the supplements still, it's like not, I still need to take these supplements for a while, but it was like my body finally like got to the point where I was giving it enough nutrients. I was doing enough supplements, and I was eating, quotations, better. But yeah, so it
And I know he had not only on some stuff for draining, and like we're hillbilly talking about this stuff. We don't really understand it completely, but we're trying. But I know there was some adrenal things.
Yeah, I'm like on
Like
an adrenal.
to boost your adrenaline and like basically energy, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I could tell like a real big difference. Like it's easier for me to tell a difference with you because with my own self, I get so much up in my own head. I'm like, oh my God, is this placebo? Am I making this up? Or am I actually, or whenever I get better, I'm like, cool, let's get even a little better. That's the addictive part of me. I'm not even appreciative of where I've come from. I'm like, no, cool, I want to keep this forever. And then I want to even feel better. Give me double, like.
Give me 2 tea bags.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, Chris is great. The naturopath, like, there's times where I'm like, is this working? And then I like think back to like April when I first went, like, oh yeah, it's worth it.
His name is Chris Aul, Aul.
I think so, yeah. He's in Clintonville.
So look him up, Columbus, Clintonville, and
I told him to get on social media. He's not.
Yeah, he's a little behind in that area, and we might have to bring him up to speed because he's a master.
Yeah.
He literally is a master at what he's done and studied all over the world. And anyways, I'm gonna try to get him on here, but if not, go to him and tell him that we sent you, and that he will give you a discount.
Yeah. So speaking of Chris, or the naturopath, Chris, last time I was in, he was like excited for me too. He's like, I can tell like all of your, like all your levels are really good. Like, it seems like you might be in a good place, like mentally and spiritually. And like, what are you doing? Like, what are your next steps? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing like spray tanning and stuff like that. And he's like, what do you want to do? Like, and I was like, I know I want to do something where I'm helping people in like a healing type way. And he was like you could do, well, I said I want to help people. And he was like, maybe this is where I got it. He's like, in like what ways? And I'm like, well, there's like, I mean, honestly, I feel like I could help people in like healing. And he was like, I think that you would be really, really good at that. Like, there's so many options available for that. And then I mentioned the like yoga, how I am thinking possibly about doing the yoga teaching training. And I'm saying I'm doing it for myself to deepen my practice. But there's a possibility that when I am doing it, or if I do it, that I will find like a part of me that does enjoy teaching others. Although right now that sounds really scary.
Poppy's being a real turd.
I know. Do you want to go get her or what?
Yeah, I could go yell at her.
So I had mentioned how I was like, oh yeah, like I kind of want to do the yoga teaching training. Although I can't see myself being like a yoga teacher. And he was like, we're actually looking for a yoga teacher to rent out a space here. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's going to be like a year, at least a year. What?
Just ignore her so she doesn't wag her tail so much.
And he basically was like, I have this Reiki master who, because he just recently got the whole building. So he's been renting it out to more people in like the healing natural arts type thing. And he was like, she does, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but she does this thing called QHHT. Poppy's driving you crazy, isn't she?
It's just so annoying. It's just so like, how are we gonna, it's so hard to accept our stupid dog barking at nothing.
So when he said that, my eyes lit up because I remember I listened to a podcast back in 2021 where someone was talking about the QHHT and I was so interested. And I remember I posted like a Facebook or Instagram story asking if anybody had heard of it before or if anybody has had it. Nobody had on my friends list, which I mean, it's kind of a new thing. So I was just interested to see. So I've been thinking subconsciously about it for a while. Like I have this little Post-it note in my office still that has like QHHT on it, so I didn't forget what it was, which it actually stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And it was like a 4-hour appointment. But anyways, he was like, she does this. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I was like, yeah, like I've been thinking about that for a while. So as soon as I left, she called me and we actually set up an appointment, and I had it on Monday, and I'm still trying to like process it.
And it's Wednesday today.
So I had it 2 days ago. I'm still trying to process like what it was, how I feel. Like I remember, it's just like a healing thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean it was like comfortable the whole time. Like it was like bringing up a lot of things for me. I definitely cried, which is like something I hate doing. Although now I'm getting like, I do notice that the relief that can bring to you. But yeah, you talk for a while about all the things. It kind of depends on you and what you want to talk about. And then she does this deep meditation where you're laying down.
Again, what you want to talk about is mainly like stuff like you've been wondering, or things that you can't figure out, or like, why am I like this in this situation? What's my
behaviors that you keep repeating?
Yeah, like what's this issue? Like, anyways.
Yeah. So like some questions you could ask, like you can ask like what's the best diet for me? So essentially what she does is she does the deep meditation, and then she gets you, which is what hypnotizes you. I'm using quotation marks because it's confusing because I can remember most of everything. But yeah, so then she starts going into like...
But you only thought you were in this thing for 20 to 40 minutes is what you told her, and it was an hour and 45 minutes.
Something like that, yeah. So yeah, the point of it is to speak to your higher self. And I know that sounds very like woo-woo and witchcraft-ish in a way.
Not necessarily.
But it's confusing. I'm still trying to process it. I definitely am like moving out some energy that I know is no longer serving me. And just like I have to my higher self said that I had to re-listen to this tape 12 times, which I think is stupid because I haven't been able to listen to it once since then. I need to.
I just want to point out that part of us that's like, yeah, we're willing to try stuff, and we're not
sold on it.
Yeah,
either.
It's not like we're out there like promoting every little new thing. Like it took me about 4 years of sobriety stuff to start sharing about it, really.
Yeah.
Because like we've all, I mean, if you've ever gotten really excited about something and been like, oh my God, everybody's got to do this, for one, everybody repels from it right away because you're too excited about it. And for two, like everything comes in seasons and goes and like,
yeah,
you know, so it's like, but with this thing, like Tiff, she wouldn't even talk to me about it until yesterday. It was at least a whole day because she's like, I don't know, like I need to and I got this vibe where you were like, don't ask me about it, like I don't want to, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then finally you did tell me about it, and yeah, it's just so like, it's almost like you're laughing and joking, like not laughing and joking, but you're like saying like, I don't know, this is what happened, sounds like some crazy shit's going on or whatever.
This is what I said during it. And that's what I don't really want to. She just brought a toy down that squeaks.
Oh no.
It's like, this is what my higher self said to me in this recording, and that sounds like I'm it just sounds funny to me still. Maybe one day I'll be like, yeah, like that's exactly what it was. And I definitely think
or maybe not too.
Yeah,
it's all valid. Like definitely you were like, I don't know, like experience basically just a lot of stuff I already kind of know about myself, or hard parts, or blocks. But I'm like, yeah, but it sounded like you might have went in with a little bit of an expectation what you thought it maybe was going to be, because I know you will research it and hear other people's
I listened to some podcasts about it, and like,
but like that's just what it is like that's that muscle that we're working on working, which is the expectation muscle, the rigid, I think things need to be exactly how I think they need to be. Like that's the part where we have a goal intuitively together to unpack with each other and individually and to grow in.
Yeah.
Why? Because that shit don't serve us. When you have all this expectation, you get let down all the time. It all adds into all the tense. I could add the addiction stuff in. It's all part of the same like self-sabotage. Just crappiness of repetition.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have this like idea in your head, like when you're like healing yourself or whatever, you're like, it's gonna be all like neat and tidy, and like you're gonna feel great. And I saw this thing on Instagram. I don't even know who posted it now, but it was like, what's something you wish that you could tell your clients? So it must have been like a therapist that posted it, and it was like, ignoring your feelings is not processing them. And like that's one thing that like ignoring stuff that's really my jam sometimes.
Ignoring is your jam.
Ignoring like, oh, how that made me feel, or like, why did I feel that way? Like basically like,
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And but you have like, you think, at least I did, like, oh, when I'm like working on myself and like even like going to yoga, like everything's so pretty and like it's gonna be all wrapped up all nice, and it's not. It's like it's messed up sometimes. And then that can like get you in your own head about it. So yeah, expectations are great.
It's a journey. It's like same way too, like I've just surrendered to like what works now. It's more of part of a journey. It's not like, oh, I figured this one part out and then now that's solved.
Yeah.
And it's like a ebb and flow. Like again, the sobriety stuff is like, it's a maintenance program. It's not like you go to 100 meetings and then you graduate with a certificate and then you're good. Like that's just not my experience and not most people's experience.
I mean, that's with anything though. Like even like being a hairdresser, like you have to put in a certain amount of hours yearly. Do you know what I mean? In order to like get your license renewed. Like you can't just be done and never work on it again. That would be nice.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you might not need to take like a haircutting class over and over again, but you're going to take something else. You're going to build on that.
And you're going to need to just do it for the experience to keep sharp on your skills, you know? Like you can't just like, it's not like, I think we accidentally treat it as if it's like a program on the computer. Like you download it one time and then you're good no matter what. It's more like, oh, we need to be reminded, like all these like typical, all these sayings, all these cliches, all these slogans we've heard our whole life. It's like they're there because our human brain needs like repetition and reminded to maintain this journey or this strength, you know? Like stop walking. You know what I mean? If you stop walking, then your muscles in your legs, you don't realize how much just walking is working those things to keep them going. You know, it's just like a metaphor.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best metaphor, but you know what I mean.
For sure. And then the last thing, I've been doing some like and women's networking events. And then I've been volunteering at the Humane Society. Walking dogs right now, which is like fun and sad at the same time. So just trying to do and not do too much, but trying to make time for myself and seeing how that makes me feel in other parts of my life.
Yeah. You are doing some ish.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing some stuff.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. We have a request for you. Please make sure to follow us and leave a review on whatever platform you are listening on. If you want to send us a message, our email is hello@empathyjampodcast.com, and also find us on social media at Empathy Jam Podcast.